Yeah, if I hear you right, I think one of the main things that parents do, at least what this is a belief that I have, and I think maybe we share it, is that parents install their own limited beliefs into their children because they fear these situations, and then therefore they're trying to keep their children safe, and they do so not consciously to do something negative, but they
Yep.
do it out of love. But
Yep.
it's the road to hell paved with good intentions, right?
Yes.
It's the idea that, um, uh, I I'm afraid of you going high because I don't want you to fall down and get hurt because I
Yep.
would be afraid to go up and get hurt to go too
Right.
far. So really, the negative limited belief that they have is that, or at least that they're teaching, is that it's not okay to go outside of your comfort zone,
Yep.
right?
That's it.
So you should stay within your comfort zone,
Right.
right? As
Yeah.
opposed to, well, explore your level of competence within your threshold,
Yeah.
and just go to that edge and see what it would look like, and
Yes.
ask mindful questions about it, right? And
Yes.
do preparation for it.
So
And I think one of the main things that parents do, which is what I think the goal of parenting is, honestly, or teaching, even in our case,
yeah.
is that every week there's a scale. In my view, there's a scale, and on one side is all preparation, and the other side is all protection.
Yeah.
And we start when they're babies with all protection and no preparation,
Yeah.
and the goal is to slowly shift until the other direction, until they're fully prepared to go alone.
Yeah.
But we
Love
don't
that.
do a good job of that when we don't let them explore and test their boundaries within
Absolutely.
a threshold of their capacity,
Yeah.
right? So, and
Absolutely.
that's the trick, and
Yeah.
not to insert our own fears into our children along the way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And also, I think as well, when they get to that toddler stage of when they're into everything, it's almost like you don't want to, they're going to go and be engrossed in certain things that you would class as being a risk. But it's almost like, okay, well, then let's talk about this. Like you're saying, is you being mindful of it. Well, why is this a potential risk for them? Because they need to understand that. Otherwise, they're going to be drawn to that again, aren't they? But they're not going to have learned the fact that this is why we've stopped you at this point. For instance, say we're using water as an example. If they're coming up to the edge of a canal or something, you don't want to just scream and shout at them and say, no, don't go any closer. You just want to stand there and talk to them about it. Oh, the water's deep, and you use terminology for them to understand, don't you, in order for them to then be aware that this can be a potential danger, but you still don't want to be fearful of it, because you can still stand here and enjoy it. You just don't want to go in it.
Yeah. Yeah, fear is a healthy thing to have,
Yes.
but reasonable fears, and not
Yes.
to let it just encompass everything, to not develop appropriate risk assessment skills,
Yeah,
right? Like, and,
exactly.
and being able to ask them questions along those lines about, did you notice that is a long way down to the canal, you could fall
Yeah.
and get hurt? Did you notice, that
Yeah.
the water's really deep, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's
Yeah.
there's a let them make decisions, right? But
Yeah. Yeah.
within a threshold of their capacity. It's like,
Yeah.
if a 2-year-old walks us up to the edge, it'd be nice to use words so they can kind of get the
Yeah.
idea, or at least implement that this is a process that we go through.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
to yank an 8-year-old away and just cause them fear and panic about,
Oh,
scream at them,
definitely.
like, what are you doing, right?
Well,
It's like,
that's it. Because then they're
oh,
like, well, why do I need to be fearful of this then? They
yeah,
almost
exactly.
second guess what we're
Yeah, because
doing
I'm
then.
afraid and you need to be afraid too.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And do you find there are a lot of adults as well, because they may have had an incident of where they have now had, or have had a traumatic experience, they then either overly compensate the fact they don't want that to happen then to their child, or it could be that they're overly conscious in the fact that they have, it's their feelings and thoughts, rather than then they're almost like portraying it onto them, they're putting it onto them as well.
That's a great question. I think probably one of the main factors, and which I think is ultimately a disservice to a lot of parents and people, is that no one teaches you how to do these things.
Right.
So it's all reactive.
Yep.
And everyone is left to do the best they can with what tools they have. And they're usually imperfect tools.
Yep.
And we usually repeat things that our parents did for us, right? Because we didn't have, because those were the models we had. But there was never a moment where if you wanted to have a kid, you went through a course or you did something on how do I actually effectively do the best parenting that I can.
Yeah.
Because, and people buy books and they do these types of things, but this isn't a common, like this takes an additional step, and not many people do that, and then they're left to do the best they can. So I think like not being educated in it is one thing. And which is where professionals like you and I get to step in and serve our communities, which is great. But then I think, also their own fears, passing their own fears on, not because they want their children to become fearful, but they'd rather them be safe. Right. And so, to what extent, right? Because, and
because so how much can they hold back that it actually ends up being worse for them than to allow them just to explore, isn't it? Sometimes it's easy enough for the parent to say, no, stop doing that, rather than just allowing them to see what happens. Because of course, any parent wouldn't actually will be putting their child in danger. But at the same time, say for instance, on a balancing beam, when they're just starting to learn how to balance, should I hold their hand? Should I not hold their hand? If they fall off, is it okay or is it not okay? Or if they do fall off, do you then say, come on, let's try again? Or do you tell them, no, I'm going to whip them away because they've got upset? It's almost like them learning together to know where their boundaries and limits are of how to progress as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think also too, to not know that to not know that children are not as fragile as we see them, right? That kids are remarkably adaptable. Humans are remarkably adaptable, and we usually rise to the occasion or to the challenges that are needed, right? COVID is no different in a sense, right? Because like you and I are Zoom calling now, this has become much more of an acceptable way to do things because we've had to find a way to do it. Like if kids, just like, something that kind of blows my mind sometimes is thinking about when kids learn to walk, if they like nobody, if they have the capacity to walk, no parent tells their kid to maybe they should just try something else after they fall 100 or 1,000 times, right? Like that does not happen. No. It's like, come on, get back up, you can do this.
Do it again.
But we stop that at some point when the function disappears, when the need disappears, right? To walk is a need, but we each have different needs because we have different character types. Like like your son, he wants to climb, he wants to explore. Right. That's a need for him. He wants to go up. Right.
Yeah,
so
he does.
So and
so fly out too.
What would be so what would be the disservice that you would do your kid is stop him from exploring that need, right?
Absolutely.
So
so my example then in the swimming world, and I believe that you were a swimmer and you're massively into swimming as well, which is awesome. So we have such that when a child wants to jump in, of course, we need to teach them how, if they jump in, what's their purpose. It's great that they want to jump in, but I always say then, if you jump in, you swim back to the side. So I'm a bit different than a lot of swimming instructors in the sense that I stand to the side because it enables them to jump out, but then it gives them that space then to jump back. So a lot of swim instructors will actually stand out in front of their child and the child will jump to the parent. And you might have seen it, is that some parents will catch them before they've even gone into the water. And then they're like, oh, yay, well done. And then they just then plop them back onto the side again. So that's almost like become the norm now, as to when a child is wanting to do that jump, they are still jumping to safety, which is their parents, rather than allowing them to actually, it's okay to jump in by themselves, but then just assist themselves back to the pool. I'm trying to embrace the fact that it's okay if they go under the water a little bit. I call them oopsie moments. unless the child is really traumatic, you know, absolutely hates it, then of course I would never you know, have it happen anyway. But for those that are wanting to just launch themselves out, you've got to teach them that, you know, you still need to come back to safety. So with your knowledge and, you know, with everything, this is a good thing, right, for me to say to the parents, it's okay to allow them to do that, right?
Yeah, I would say it all, like, again, like, one of the things to me is it's the scale of protection versus preparation.
Yeah.
And if you have a kid that is willing to go and they want to go and the stakes are low, right?
Yeah.
It's not like we're having them, you know, do a high wire balance over the Grand Canyon. It's not like the mistakes are catastrophic.
Right.
If they're jumping into a pool and you're 5 feet away from them, right? Like, it's extremely reasonable to allow them a moment of self-discovery and understanding. 100%. It's going to serve them a lot better. Like, an uncomfortable situation you can grow. Most people, actually, you know what? All growth happens from uncomfortable situations. You don't grow when you don't grow when you're comfortable.
Right.
So, you know, it's relationship building to jump into mom or dad's arms, right? Which is great. But at some point, you don't want to be the one that holds them always, you know, you don't want them to always jump to your safety net.
Yeah.
Because eventually you're not going to be there.
Exactly.
And you want them to move on and be independent. Your job as a parent is to create independence in your kids, because that's the point of rearing a child. And I think one of the things that many parents don't really realize is your kids are going to leave. Like, we don't even think about that. We're like, no, they're in my life. No. But but then ask those same parents if they live with their mom and dad.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
exactly.
You know, like, typically there's no. So
they do fly off.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's 100%.
Yeah. And I think as well,
go ahead, please.
Oh no, I was going to say as well that I really truly believe that and using again swimming as an example, that people are now so fearful that if they don't have swimming lessons, that their child's going to drown. And it's almost like the thought that they're driven to do swimming lessons because, yes, of course, it's a lifelong skill, and it's something that's really important to do. Of course it is. But because I feel that everyone's saying, if you don't do this, you're going to die. If you don't do this, you're going to drown. The parents feel as though, like, oh no, I've got to get them into swimming lessons then. But then our ratings of our drowning isn't going down. Mm-hmm. If anything, the older children, our ratings are going up. So nothing what we're doing is actually making a difference, if you think about it, because the levels aren't changing whatsoever. They're still really high, which is a shame. Of course, it's awful. It's not a nice thing at all. So that's why I'm trying to re-educate teachers in the sense that allowing that risky play, or allowing those controlled risk, of course, you're not, like you said, you're not going to just take them to not just going to take them to an open lake and then just say, right, throw you in and off you go and learn to swim. You know, we're still giving them that controlled, purposeful environment. But I'm trying to, can you hear me? Going off. Hello?
Oh, no, I'm still here.
You're still there? Okay, yes, because you froze a bit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just I'm in America, and maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, maybe it's taking a lot of I don't know, maybe there's lots of people on at this time. Mind you, you guys on America, you're in the middle of your day, aren't you? So it's probably why the signal's struggling a bit. But no, what I was just trying to say was that because parents are sort of almost like living in fear that if they don't do this and this, it's going to have a real bad effect on their, you know, potential death or what have you for their child. So I'm just trying to bring in the fact that it's okay to do more of a risk play. So we are a play-based swim school. But things like you used to be told, oh, don't stand on floats because you could fall and hurt yourself and things like that. You just think, you know, and so
No,
I'm trying to bring things like that back in.
yeah, I think there's a large cultural shift where the majority of what our culture is attempting to do is create safety
Yeah,
for everyone, but if we're truly trying to create safety for our children and for our future generations, the best way to create safety is to create or an understanding of a responsible decision making process.
right.
And it's not, I'm going to remove anything dangerous, because the world is dangerous. It's actually, living is terminal. You're like, there's no
Yeah.
way out of this, right?
No,
Like,
there's
you
no-
know, it's so the idea that, well, I'm going to create fear so you don't do it. I'm going to
Right.
remove obstacles so you don't have to go over them. We're in effect creating weaker people, right? Like it's not something that's actually helping. We're not serving our kids by trying to remove the obstacles, or trying to not give them the experiences they need, or provide them with an education that'll help them make responsible decisions.
Right.
We're doing the exact opposite. We're hurting our kids because we're not giving them the experience they need.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing you had me thinking too was how sorry, I'm trying to think. Oh, I can't remember.
Oh,
if it's
that's all right.
it'll
No problem. No, I guess it's because I read on one of your blogs as well, which I thought was really cool, is that you said that we're empowering children to become physically and emotionally strong, in the sense that, you know, providing them that environment to think for themselves. Because
Yeah.
you know, in other cases we're telling them what to do and what not to do, rather than allowing them to mentally be thinking for themselves, you know.
Yeah, we give them tools, we give them a skill set, which is great because we are professionals, we have this capacity. But and this actually reminds me of what I was about to say.
Good.
Which so thank you. Which is one of the things that I've noticed is that we removed the free play from our kids' lives. Come home when the lights turn on, when the dinner bell rings, whenever that is. We remove that experience from our kids. And as a result, we've instituted professionals to try to teach you the skills safely, or remove all of the dangerous situations in the first place. So, you know, it wasn't, so when we got back from Germany fairly recently, and the lifeguards there do not know what a swim test is. There's no such thing as a swim test in Germany. Test in order to go out to the dock, right? And the German lifeguards, we went up to them and we said, hey, so we have two boys here. Can they take the swim test? And they were like, what do you mean? And I was like, to see if they can go out there. And they looked at me and they're like, well, can they swim? And I was like,
that's your test.
Thank you. Of course. Yeah. That's your like, can you swim? Like the self-awareness. If you want, like, that's even the remarkable thing, is that, there's a big cultural move of like, be mindful and have self-awareness and all this other stuff, but yet don't learn to make responsible decisions, because just avoid them completely. So you're safe. It's like, no, you have to put there's a fear of like where you don't know what the outcome's going to be, because no kid is going to pursue their goals or their dreams if their fear of failure outweighs their goals or dreams. If they're afraid that they're going to fail, or they don't know how to make responsible decisions, and that stacks on top of each other, they're not going to go out and pursue the things that are meaningful to them. So I'm very strong in your camp about how we can help our kids, right?
Yeah. No, I know, because I think as well, because in schools and stuff, they're always saying, during like sports day now as well, aren't they? They're saying everybody's a winner, and you just think, well, that's also not teaching them really, are they? About, no, there are winners, and unfortunately there are those that we do come second, third, fourth, however many places, and to actually acknowledge the fact that you tried your best, and that's okay that you aren't winning. And it's almost like they're dubbing the fact is that we all should be equal, but really we're not in everyday life either. So
it removes striving. It removes
Right.
it, like it's that there it's the association that I think is misplaced, is that if you come in first, you're a winner, and if you come in anything but first, you're a loser.
Right.
But then to associate losing as as of worth, and
Right.
it's you are not a loser, and then the disconnect is, that this is I'm less worthy than the
Right.
winner, and it's like, no, but you didn't win,
Right.
but you tried, and striving is going to make you grow, and it's going to help you develop, right? Like,
Yeah.
competitions can be great, but we teach to our teachers, is that, competition is healthy
Yep.
as long as the players are always
Yeah.
held at a higher importance than the competition,
Right.
right? Like, so yeah, no, there's a first place, there's a second
Yeah.
place, there's a third place, but that does not equal your worth.
No,
That just
exactly.
happens to be the
Be that
place
that's
that
the
you
way
got,
it is.
which
Yeah.
which is just a measurement to how you currently are at that moment. And that's
Exactly.
not a value statement. That's just like, it's
Yeah.
just, yeah. So,
So true.
oh,
Yeah, I know. And it's that's one of the things that I'm sort of struggling with coming back, because we lived in Florida for 10 years, and I was able to really focus on my swim school because I didn't have any sort of I just did what I thought was best to do because it was my swim school, and I didn't have any external people coming in and going telling me you need to do this, this and this. So I was free to do whatever I wanted to do. And my American clients loved the fact that they had this British swimming teacher, so that was brilliant. But that enabled me then to really engross and really try things out to see what really was working for these children, and for me to even explore these things enabled the children, and how they were then thriving in that environment was just, it was really lovely to see. So over here and I think it's probably the same in America and worldwide, is that when you do your swimming qualifications, and with any sport really, because we've even experienced this in martial arts, because Harry wanting to be a ninja, we thought that may possibly, martial arts and things, and I know that that's a discipline, and I know that's probably not a great example because it is very disciplined, but at a very young age for them starting this, and it was a group for 4 to 6 year olds, and they brought out a list of all these things of what they should be doing, rather than, and it's the same in the swimming world, rather than just allowing them to almost like learn through exploring and playing, and like you were talking about earlier, body awareness, where should I need to be moving in order to do this, that and the other. And I don't necessarily always step in to help them. I try and see how if they figure it out, and then I'm like, yay, that's it, so then they can feel it, so it's all muscle memory and then things like that. And it was just really sad in the fact that it's becoming so teacher-led on everything, which is why I love what you're doing at Kong Academy with your parkour, because it just enables people to be free again, and to be go back to almost like the natural feeling of how we move, and how we need to really understand more about ourselves in order to come across, and come across anything really, isn't it? Any troubles in life, whether it is a dangerous of roads or as a child, or whether or not is anything, isn't it, in adulthood as well, that it's enabling them to be in this environment that you're providing, like you are for parkour. Mind, you're putting your mind at the test, aren't you, for sure.
mm-hmm.
And I feel that in the swimming world, it's not allowing them to do that. And it's really apparent as well in others, in gymnastics and football and rugby and any children's sport. And I'm not saying, 11, I would say probably 11 up, maybe 10 and up. Yes, if they're really into their sports, then of course they need to know X, Y, and Z to obviously move forward. But the younger ones, do you think that it's just let them just be free and to just learn by exploring and just trying things?
I not completely, because I
Okay.
think that there is a balance. I think all of these are tools.
Okay.
Like I think one of the examples is we talked about earlier before we remember to push the record button
Yeah.
because we were like just got it
We
too
just got
excited
really
with
in
our
there, didn't we?
conversation. But we had talked earlier about how there's a big push for kids to grow up and for them to not to be looking ahead to the next stage and not be present where they are. So,
Right.
not worrying about where they are now, but if you don't get the good grades now, you won't get into the right middle school, to the high school, to the college, to the job, and then your whole life explodes and your feet fall off, right? Like, so the idea that kids there needs to be some form of there's a balance between an education process, and the way that we do things at Khan Academy, which is a really great way for people to learn, is one way that humans learn is through modeling. Like
Yeah.
we have an expression, monkey see, monkey do, right? There's a we do the things that our parents did for us when we were being raised because
Right.
that's our model. So we have an opportunity to go through phases of instruction. The ending goal, though, I think of all successful teachers is to no longer be needed as a teacher,
Right.
right? And every good teacher, I think, is going to try to work themselves out of a job, right? If you are so how do I take what I know and give you responsibility
Right.
for now knowing the thing I now got to teach you? And the way that Kong Academy does that is we do it through phases where we start with what's called like an anticipatory set, which
Right.
is I am going to inspire you. I'm going to get you excited in an anticipation of what we're going to learn today. And then we go through a phases of direct instruction. I'm going to teach you how to do something. Your hand goes here, your foot goes here. You step up, you step over. This is how we do a safety ball, right? This is a phase of direct instruction. But now
Right.
that I taught you how to do it, now you and I are going to practice together. So now
Right.
you and I are going to do step vaults together. And now we are practicing together.
Right.
And then I'm going to remove myself from this. And I want my students now to do the vaults and to do those things.
Right.
And then now that's a group and I've removed myself from the situation. And now you individually, can you go find a place that you could do one of those vaults? So, and then they have some free time and they get to play. So I'm going to give them a direct instruction, one piece
Right.
of information. This is something you're going to learn. I'm going to teach you.
Right.
And then we practice. Now you practice. Now you practice.
Right.
And that takes what I know and gives you responsibility for it. And
Yeah.
now it's yours. And now you can play. And now you have a new tool.
Right.
And I think that's each one of these. So if it's all direct instruction,
Right.
then students they miss out on the fact that they can learn from each other,
Yeah.
that students can learn independently, that we can learn as a collective. If we only focus on one
Yeah.
element of that, then we miss out on the whole spectrum of teaching. And that actually every student learns the same way. So
Right.
then
True.
either one or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
No, that's yeah, thank you for that. It's so true, because you have to show them how to do these things first, because obviously they don't know what A means, B means, and so on. But then it's also, once they've grasped that concept of it, is then over to them to sort of say, okay, now what have you learned then from what we've just discussed, type thing, isn't it? Or what we've just been doing together. And I think that's and I think in the swimming world, I mean, I'm only talking about the small amount of time and the short amount of what I've come across what other people do, because like I said, I try and keep myself to myself, because I don't want anybody else to be interfering in my mindset. But because I go very much into my tuition, going off my intuition of how I feel, because sometimes if there's too much external for me, then I second guess myself, thinking, oh, should I be doing it? Am I doing this right? Or am I not doing this right? No, that doesn't feel right. For instance, like homeschooling my own son, because you tend to see what everyone else is doing around you, you then second guess, like, oh no, am I doing this the right way? But then actually, no, I am doing this because it's for my son. So it's the same in the, you know, when how you are as a teacher as well, isn't it? Is trying to think that how is it making me feel, as well of how you're bringing it into the swimming lesson, into your teaching environment, isn't it? Not saying obviously I'm talking swimming, but also for you guys as well, isn't it, for what you're
No,
doing?
absolutely. Yeah. Moving and playing, right?
Yeah.
Learning skill. All of
Yes.
it's all synonymous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep going, please.
Yeah. No, I don't know why. I just think it's just, you know, sometimes when there's too many external people telling you, you know, you need to do this, this, and this, and this, and this, and you're thinking, well, okay, but then things to you tend to seem like, well, that doesn't make any sense of why you're telling me to do this, because I haven't done this bit yet, type thing. And it's almost like we're rushing through things to get to that end result, but we're not really having that much of a journey to get there. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm just trying to think that it's almost like a journey, isn't it, that you're trying to have with that learning process. And I don't know how it is in the parkour world, because for you, if they don't reach a certain height, then of course for them it's you know, a big drop, isn't it? But I don't know really where I'm going with this. I'm just thinking that
that's okay.
I'm just trying to think that you know, the journey that we're trying to bring out in children is one of exploration and trusting the fact that yes, the adults are here to guide you, but we don't all have the answers, and to almost like you know, to grasp this in their own way as well. And it's not one fits all, that just because you don't want to learn your bubble to blow your bubbles at this particular time, then it's okay, but you might want to do it a different time and a different way, and that's all right as well. We tend to sort of block them in certain things of that you need to do this now in this way, rather than allowing them to, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I see what you're saying in that, you know, as teachers, we get caught up in the learning objectives of what we're doing, as opposed to focus on building the relationships with our students in order for them to have, you know, a truly more impactful experience.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh my goodness. Yes, thank you. I tried to explain what I was trying, but you hit the nail on the head. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for going there. I think that's very true. If we focus on I think what's most important is we always focus on serving our students or our children.
Yeah.
And that does not always come into the form of what they want. And it might come into what they need to do. And also this brings up a topic for me about progression.
Right.
Because you know, for parkour, we talk about progression, and everything is about progression. I do not start you by putting you on the top of a roof and say, now jump. You know, because if I did that, I would have probably been in jail and, you know, gone out of business and not have helped anyone. Right. So, yeah, yeah, exactly. So, you know, it's about scalable progression and doing so within the threshold of belief of our students, and then letting them know they're more capable than they believe of what they think of themselves. So, because it's so easy for every one of us to come up with why we are afraid, or why we can't, or why that's just not for me, I'll never be able to do that. These are all a lot of negative limited beliefs that we all indoctrinate ourselves with through, you know, experiences in the past that just hold us back. Some of them are good, some of them serve us in that we are able to generalize the world in order to keep us safe. Like, I'm not going to climb up to the top of the Space Needle and jump off, and then if I don't, I feel ashamed, because that's like, I'm like, I'll never jump off the Space Needle. Good. That's probably a good thing, right? Like, but if it's a belief that, but if it helps me, if it serves me, keeps me safe and protected, that's great. But if I never get the experience to be able to delineate between, does it help me or does it hold me back, and be able to make those choices for myself, then how am I going to learn how to progress in anything that I choose to do? So yeah, and then as teachers, just the ability to take, yes, I have learning objectives for the day. Today we are going to focus on, you know, helping ourselves remove the limited beliefs that we have, and also we're going to work on jumping skills, and those are the two
Right.
things we're going to focus on today. But if one kid is, you know, or if you know, one of my students is absolutely distraught and having a really hard time, I'm probably not going to serve him best by forcing him to do the
Do
learning
it.
objectives. I probably have to adapt for that child in order
Right.
for, you know. But then I think also as a teacher, it's really tricky, because if you have a group of students,
Yeah.
right? At what point do you you know, at what point do you say, okay, this is the group experience, and I want to make sure I can serve as many people as I can without derailing from just one or two of my individuals, which is,
Right.
I think, one of the tricks as a teacher to learn. It's not a science, it's an art. It's
Mhm.
not a, it's something that you have to balance internally and read the room and the tone, and
Yes.
do what you can, but yeah, but not to the detriment of everyone. So
Absolutely. I
yeah.
guess as well, it's then for them to understand as to why you're asking them to do those things too. You know, because if you're just telling them you need to do this to be able to move forward, and then they don't actually understand, well, why are you asking me to do this to move forward? Then that also helps, doesn't it? You know,
Yeah.
and again, it's them then feeling that they are capable, because then their understanding is such that, okay, well, we're thinking about those beliefs and you jumping from here, but why are you asking me to jump from here? Because it's, you know, it
Yeah.
to be able to progress forward. So the same in the swimming is that there are some things that they're asked to do and you just think, well, why are you asking them to do that? Because it doesn't make any sense for them to do that. So, and they're almost like adding these things on just for the sake of adding them on, rather than, because then the child's almost like
Explain.
confused, as if to say, but I don't get it.
Yeah, if they don't understand why, then yeah, so and yeah, so to be able to outlay exactly why, and then also I think another useful tool as well is to let them know that all skills are replicatable, right?
Right.
You can, or any, if someone has a skill, anyone else can learn that skill. It's not something special, it's not magic. You
Right.
know, you being able to swim to the bottom of the pool probably fascinates one of your 5-year-olds,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
oh wow, I want to be able to do that. And then,
Yeah.
you know, and you capture their imagination. And then,
Yeah.
and that's one of the things I think is really valuable about having a form of an anticipatory set to all of the education classes, is because if you start with something that we in parkour we call it woo chemi,
Okay.
because there's a word called ukemi, which is the art of falling,
All
which
right.
is ukemi. But we call moving to, yeah, we call moving to inspire, we call that woo chemi, like
Brilliant.
woo,
Yeah, woohooing.
you know, like,
That's brilliant.
so if a kid can get captured in their imagination by seeing an example, yeah, skills. And then it goes through, you know, you got to be able to blow bubbles in the water, you got to be able to put your head under, and you got to be able to push off the ball, or you know, whatever it is, right? So and then outlaying the road to get there can actually cause, I think, a lot of students to quell their anxieties about,
Yeah.
you know, each of these steps, and we're going to go up there by doing these 3 things. Like, that's comforting, because
Yeah.
that also displays mastery of your teacher. Like, I can teach you how to get there. That shows that you have confidence in their ability, even if they're shaky and uncertain. You're certain, and you can do it, and you're bigger. So there's a lot of factors that play to when we say, this is what like I show you, and then I tell you what you're going to learn how to do, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do those things, and then that shows that you also have a plan, and that means that you've done it before, and that means, like, there's all these layers to being able to say, here's where we're going, here's how we're going to get there.
Yeah.
that's comforting. Like if I had a guide that was, taking me to Mount Everest and told
Yeah.
me, all right, we're going up there and we're going to do that by these 3 steps. I'm like, okay, he's got a plan. He must be competent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah,
No,
but
I
yeah, so
like
I think
that.
it's a great process to teachers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so thank you. Yeah,
yeah.
our signal over here is really not good, so I'm really sorry.
Uh-oh.
I'm
No,
sort of catching you get in and out. So I don't know
oh dang.
if we're okay your end. I don't know.
Yeah, you're totally fine on my
Oh,
end.
really?
Real,
Maybe it's just
all
our
in real
end.
time. No frame
Really? Oh my
adjustment.
goodness.
No.
Okay. Maybe it's just my end, but that's okay. No, that's great. So
Yeah.
what would what are your when now with for Kong Academy, what are your plans for where the
Yeah.
future, or like what
Yeah.
are the
Great.
exciting things going on?
Thank you so much for asking. Yeah, so we are working really hard on developing our online program.
Right.
We're coming up with a base module that parents and kids can do at home,
Okay.
which is something that we're really excited to share with everybody.
Amazing. Tell us more.
And yeah, yeah. These so if a child's going to learn how to envelop a social or an emotional skill, they need to have an experience that authenticates why it's valuable in
Right.
order, because if they're going to internalize this, if they're going to actually carry the skill with them in the future, they have to understand and internalize the importance as opposed
Absolutely.
and in addition to having a tool.
Yep.
So the goal of Khan Academy is we do that, and we do that through play and parkour. But parkour is a tool that we get to use to teach these kids these things. That's the
Right.
real meat and potatoes of what Khan Academy does, is we give kids those social emotional skills. And what we're doing is we're putting all of those into at-home activities through guided videos and homework challenges and all those types of things that kids get to do at home, so they can become a ninja, so they can, develop, self-awareness, how do I pay attention to self-talk? What are the steps to making a responsible decision? And we do that through teaching kids how to climb a tree, for example, or
Right.
being able to vault or play in their living room, and being able to learn the value of persistence. And so these are the things that Khan Academy teaches. We just do it through the language kids love, which is
Yeah.
play,
Yeah.
because that's what
That too well.
universally kids do. So yeah, so that's where we're going. We're putting together our online program because we want to share these lessons with kids all over the world. And
Brilliant.
truly because we believe that kids deserve this education, and they're not being given this education. And actually, even through our conversation, it's just evident that even in England, these are things that you experience too, is that kids are getting less and less of an opportunity to develop these skills. And so the need is just increasing. So this is something that we can actually do to help really serve our kids to become, the competent leaders, that the world needs them to become.
So with the online courses, it's something that obviously the parents, how does it, do they do everything together, parent and child doing it together, or how are you sort of structuring it?
Yeah, we're structuring it in a couple of different ways. The main way is that it's just the child with the screen and being able to work on their tablet, laptop, or whatnot at home. Part of that is because we want the parents to be able to not have to do yet another thing, right? Like, I mean, you're a parent, that this is not,
50,000 million one
your
things to
time
do.
is limited. Yeah, exactly. So we do these things with the kids, but we can also send parents prompts of, here's what your kid learned, here's ways that you can encourage that and foster that learning. And we also do have a couple of modules that are family together movement.
Right.
Because if a lot of parents themselves are not necessarily getting all the exercise and movement that they need in their lives, and due to whatever it is, responsibilities or however. So can we create a connection point for their kid and themselves where the parent gets to exercise and move, but then the kid also gets a play opportunity where they can learn something and do something together. So, so these are, so these are the different ways that we structure it to bring it to everybody, because it needs to be accessible to everybody,
Right.
which is why we don't, I think it's like $5 or $10 a month for the whole thing. So,
Right.
because yeah, because it should not be something that, is limited to people who have bajillion dollars,
Right.
and it's not something that also is limited to what you have, right?
Yeah.
It's like we show you how to do it at home with simple things like a chair, and things like that allow
Yeah.
kids to explore and play, and with guidance, and then they take what we do and they do it for themselves somewhere, right?
Oh, brilliant.
So
Yeah. That sounds
yeah,
really
so this
great. Sounds really
thanks.
interesting. Seriously, yeah,
Thanks.
and very affordable, which is amazing, especially in these times at the moment as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and especially even when like there's a lot of things like distance learning and stuff
Yes.
that is a need at this time, right?
Yeah.
Right
Yeah,
now
absolutely.
too, right? Because
Yeah.
yeah, so that's probably not going to go away. I think they estimated by 2025 is when things should be,
Yeah.
which is this is the third school year that's been disrupted already, and the idea that that's just going to continue is just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah.
well, we better find a new way to make things work, because
Yeah.
we don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty. So how do
Yeah.
we create some certainty for our
Yeah.
families?
Yeah.
So
And adapting, isn't
yeah,
it? Adapting to the situation that we're given as well, is that which then teaching our children to be adaptable as well, isn't it? It's really important, because we just don't know what's around the corner, and this proved it, didn't it? We didn't know we were going to be doing this,
100%.
a
Yeah,
couple of years
for
ago, did
years.
we?
Yeah,
And it's
exactly. So
we did as well as many water adventurers. We had to completely, because the swimming pools were all shut and everything, and trying to think out the box of what we could do in order to keep in contact with our amazing customers, but then at the same time is still unable to give back to the children somehow. It's we were really trying to think of all these ways, but and I think it's to be able to just sort of take a step back and think, and just, oh, well, I'll just wait until it gets back to normal. I don't think it's going to get back to normal, is it? So we really need to think of these things, and it's brilliant that you guys have are adding these programs, because they're obviously well needed, of course, but then it enables then for people here in the UK, for instance, to be able to get that benefit as well, isn't it? Not just you locally, you're able to make that awareness worldwide, isn't it?
yeah, the aim is to truly empower kids.
Yeah.
And that's the goal. So how do we do that as best as we can? And by people participating and things, it gives us an opportunity to evolve and grow and help everybody as best as we can, because
Yeah.
we've seen these things work over and over again. It's just how do we replicate it on a way to create more impact? Because this is a need. It's a very real present need in the world. And how do we help? So this is our way of contribution. So
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's brilliant. It's and thank you for having you amazing people to do that. We need more, don't we, to try
we do. I can't thank everyone. Like you and all the teachers out there that are trying to give this to everybody, and even our own team at Kong, like how well they how hard they work, and how well it's beautiful. It's awesome that people care to actually make a difference.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, our children are our future, right? So we need to help our kids. We need to help them, don't we, to be able to then pass it down then to the next lot, don't we?
Exactly. Yeah.
Really good.
So
Oh, well, thank you. It's been really lovely chatting with you, and